But yes, I'm live streaming off of my phone because I don't care to grab out my laptop because that's a lot of work, and I don't want to put a lot of work into this. I just want to live stream and have some fun. I'm also waiting for people to join so they can ask me questions about my thoughts. I don't know when people are going to join. They might not join. It's a school day, so. Anyway. Beginning my thoughts on Fire Emblem. Hello, everybody. Yep, Fire Emblem. I'm really excited for the new Fire Emblem game coming out in like 4 days. So, I wanted to talk about it on a live stream and get, yes, Pink Hat, and see what you guys thought about my thoughts. Yeah, that's the words I want to use. Now, what I wanted to start off with was engage, and I wanted to, like, before we get to engage, though, I wanted to walk through my experiences with every Fire Emblem game I've played, which I feel like my situation's unique because I started with the 3DS games. I haven't played any of the Fire Emblem games before the 3DS games. So what that means is I'm basically like the baby of the Fire Emblem franchise. I've touched like 4 or 5 games, but like there's like 13 games I haven't touched and I won't touch because I've heard awful things about them and they don't look appealing to me. So keep in mind with my thoughts, I'm just talking about the 3DS titles and Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fire Emblem Three Hopes, and first Fire Emblem Warriors game. I know I need a fan, okay? It's hot. I'm using this so you guys don't have to see my balding scalp. Anyway. Oh yeah, also I got H2O for when it gets too hot and I need to drink. Now, here's my thoughts. So Fire Emblem Awakening, right? I remember when that game was coming out very well because I was at my friend's house, right? And the different thing is with him, he wasn't allowed to play a lot of mature games. Because his what's it called? His parents were like, "Hey, you can't play a lot of mature games. You're only like 15. You can't play a lot of games like that, right?" Or however old we were, I forget. I think we were actually more like closer to like 13 or 12. Anyway, we were playing these games, and I remember, like, when we weren't playing, we were watching other Fire Emblem games, and we were like, that looks cool, because we heard about Fire Emblem Awakening. So we were, like, watching the trailers, we were watching the demos, and I remember us begging his mom endlessly for that game. I remember that so much. Dude, we spent a good, like, couple, like, 5 or 6 months, like, waiting for that game to come out, just begging for them to buy it. And then I remember it was close to release day, and we're like, "Oh man, we're not gonna get to play." Me and him were like so excited. We were looking at the game. We were gonna just watch it on YouTube together. And I remember, like, his mom walking into the room with a little present wrapped because she didn't get him something for his birthday because she said she wanted to really surprise him, and it was the day of release. And she gave him the gift, and we were both looking at it, going, "What's that? What is that?" And he unwraps it, and we're both like, "Oh my god, it's Fire Emblem Awakening!" And I remember how crazy that was. Fire Emblem is one of the first, like, Nintendo games that I really got excited for a release date for. Like, in terms of Nintendo games, Fire Emblem Awakening was the very first Nintendo game that I was excited for, like, pre-release, that wasn't already out that I played. So the amount of excitement I had to play that. Keep in mind, though, I still had to wait like an extra 2 or 3 months for him to beat the game. But I watched him play, and I was like, "Oh my god, this game looks so good! It's so good!" And then I got my chance to play, and I gotta say, the game is freaking awesome. Like, for a first Fire Emblem game, you cannot go wrong with Awakening. I just remember playing that. And while waiting for to be able to play with him, I just played the demo on my 2DS over and over and over again. We played it for like, I don't know, I played it for like, well, at least a month. I kept replaying the same like 2 chapters. Because you got the first chapter where you saved the village, and then you got the second chapter where you killed the Risen, and then the demo ended. Yes, I remember you, Rat Queen. Um, and I remember just how nuts it was, like just seeing that. And keep in mind, Nintendo graphics back then, like today, we're like, oh, we got the Switch, you had the Wii U. Before that, my only experience with Nintendo games were on the DS and were on the Nintendo 64. So the 3DS to me was like the holy grail. Ah! Right, and I was getting to play a brand new strategy game, which I hadn't played since Shining Force. And keep in mind, if you guys don't know what Shining Force is, it's kind of like Fire Emblem. If it was on the SNES, and if no, not the SNES, if it was on the Sega Genesis, which is not bad at all, fun game, but pretty dated by nowadays. But I still go back and play it sometimes if I'm ever feeling frazzy. But Fire Emblem Awakening was my first real like exciting Fire Emblem game that I sat there and went, yeah. And I'm not going to spoil the game too much, but I'll say a couple things about it. DLC wise, I'm really angry at that game because nowadays we're getting close to the point where you're not going to be able to play it, and not playing the DLC, you miss out on a lot of context and a lot of character development, and that really sucks. That like there was never like a Fire Emblem Awakening Deluxe Edition release, so you could just play all the DLC like it's all included in one. I really wish they would have done that at some point, because dude, that would have been freaking amazing. I would have played that so much if they just released a deluxe version. I feel like that if Nintendo released deluxe version of their games, or like definitive editions where it's like, here's the game with all the DLC included, I would buy that in a heartbeat instead of having to buy all the DLC. Toei Tecmo is also horrible at that. I don't know why that is. Why they struggle to release products with all the DLC included. Like, release the game, have a cycle, right, where people buy all the DLC, and then, like, maybe like a year after that, release a version of it with the DLC. I'd buy that in a heartbeat because I don't want to buy every single DLC individually. Because it's super expensive. But I know why they don't, because well, I mean, most of the time the DLC is pretty inconsequential, but Awakening's DLC is like needed. Like you need that DLC to understand a lot of stuff. Well, that and you get a couple like grindy stuff, and it makes some things easier. But in general, like the character development in the Awakening DLC is like, especially for Lucina, very much needed. So sadly, you'll have to watch that on YouTube now because the eShop's shutting down. You won't be able to get the DLC anymore. I know, sad. Um, the next game after that is Fire Emblem Fates. And Fates is weird for me because I didn't understand when I first saw the game. I didn't understand that it'd be a route split kind of game. Where like, oh, it's the fire. You go Birthright, go Conquest, you go Revelations, right? But I didn't understand that at first, and my main problem with Fire Emblem Fates was how they did it. Like you had to buy. It's like They did it Pokemon style, but it's a game that doesn't really work Pokemon style. Because even with Pokemon, if you buy a different version of the game, it's just the theming that changes. And Fire Emblem Fates, it's like a whole different story, and it kind of felt wrong. And nowadays, you can't even play the middle path anymore because because it's DLC. You can't play it anymore. So you can't play Revelations, and that's the true story. That's the one. That's what's supposed to happen. Like you have the light, you have the dark, and you have the thing in the middle that's like, here's what's really going on, the truth. And you can't find out the truth anymore unless you look it up on YouTube. And it's like, come on, stop releasing DLC that's important to the main game. Like, that's infuriating. Especially on the 3DS. Because the 3DS, if you guys don't know, DLC for that is freaking infuriating to get installed. On top of that, like, Fire Emblem Fates has a lot of problems. I'm just going to say the word. YouTube's not going to like me, but I'm going to say it. Fates has a problem with incest. I don't know what their obsession was with that in that game. You can marry your sister. I don't. Fates, come on. I want to like you. Your gameplay is phenomenal. But your story is crap. And that's the truth about Fates. Like, the gameplay is phenomenal, but the story is crap. You can marry your brother. I don't know why that's a thing. You can marry your little sister who's like 5 times less your age. It's very weird. That I don't know who was led on. I don't know who was led on that team, man. But someone needs to be arrested there. That's all I can say. What the fuck? Fire Emblem Fates, man. Oh god. The story was crap because your main character, they picked the dark side. Okay, yeah, gonna be evil, but no, they try to still feign good. So like, oh yeah, you're picking the evil side, but you're still pretending to be good. And there's obviously working for the super evil guy. But no, he's secretly good, the evil guy. And then it turns out, oh yeah, the super evil guy that I was saying was good is actually pure evil. I never would have guessed. Game. Game, he's cackling to himself and throwing dark fireballs. And you're telling me he's the good guy? Of course you are. And then it turns out he's the super evil guy. I would have never have guessed. Like, Fates is infuriating story. Like, gameplay wise, I love it. I love Fire Emblem's gameplay. It is so fun. But the story is so fucking bad. I don't know how you mess up a story that bad. On the good route, apparently, you just people get possessed for no reason. Okay, we're gonna ignore the fact that, we're gonna ignore our siblings and try to kill them. Okay. Also, Xander makes no sense, unlike any of the paths. Xander is if you don't want context, Xander is your eldest brother, who, by the way, you can marry too. You can marry your eldest brother, because why not? In Xander, he's like, oh, I'll do anything for you. I'll sacrifice everything for you. I'll protect you. I'm training you. This, in all 3 stories, screw you. I don't love you. What? In your support conversations, you're telling me how much you love me. In the main story, you're telling me to fuck off. I don't know what to believe. And that's also like a big. Why is I don't know. I don't know. Fire Emblem Fates is a game where everything is fighting each other. The gameplay is fighting the story. The story play is fighting the supports. The supports is fighting the marriage. And it's like, who made this game? Nothing connects right. Nothing connects at all. It's like the story's fighting the gameplay. Because you have the gameplay, which is cool. And then you have the story that basically is like, oh yeah, the gameplay didn't happen. I'm like, come on. Just let me enjoy the game. I almost just wish you can like disable the story mode just to play the gameplay. Because of how dumb the story is. Right? Also, whose idea was it to marry your siblings? I just want to talk to them. I just want to talk to them. What? I don't know what the fuck is going on with that game. I don't know. And I'm just saying this. With anything an anime-based game. But here's the thing. It's the only Fire Emblem game that's like this. Even the game that comes right after it is nothing like it. So I don't know who made this game and for what reason. I don't know who that was supposed to be for. Because the path system is stupid. It should have all just been in one game. Kind of like how Three Houses did it, but we'll get to that eventually. And it just... They messed up on every front, and I don't know how you did that. I don't know how. How they messed up on every single aspect. The only part that saves the game is the gameplay and the music. I feel like that's something I could say about every Fire Emblem game, with exclusions for one. That the music is phenomenal. There's only one Fire Emblem game where I don't care for the music, and that's not because it's a bad music. That's just because it's not my taste. Right? And we'll get to that eventually. Just Fates is so frustrating. And I want you guys to know that Fates had the potential to be the best Fire Emblem game. If they would have just got the story right. The gameplay was there. The music was there. But the story was shite. And I don't know how they did that. I don't know. Okay, but Pokemon is different. Pokemon is just a different theme. Fire Emblem Fates are like different stories entirely. Kind of like, but except now, one of the stories you can't play. Because it's DLC. So now you can't even play the story. and it's lost the time. So, and you can only watch it on YouTube. So, thank you, Fire Emblem developers. Thank you for that. I will never be able to experience that game again. Thank you, because I lost my old 3DS. All right, on to the next game. We're gonna move past Fire Emblem Fates and its weirdness, because the next game's actually really really good, and that is Fire Emblem Echoes, which is technically a remake, but we're counting it anyway because it's so good. Fire Emblem Echoes is a 3DS remake of an old NES game called Fire Emblem Gaiden. And I have to say, I'm glad they make it because I'll never play Gaiden. There's no reason to. Just play the 3DS remake. I'm gonna have a mental breakdown. I'm sorry. Anyway, Fire Emblem Echoes is by far the best out of like it's close to one of the best 3DS Fire Emblem games. Like up there with Awakening. I mean, I know that's not like a big contest. There's only like 3, but just stick with me. Fire Emblem Echoes had so many great mechanics in that game. I love the way they did magic where it drains off your health instead of having a durability. Also, yes, they got rid of durability in that game. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Dude, I freaking hate durability in the Fire Emblem franchise. It's just annoying. I don't want to have to micromanage my weapons. I don't want to do that. I'm focusing on enemy and types and focusing on what's not going to get me killed. I don't want to micromanage my weapons. Like Fire Emblem Echoes. I'm so happy they got rid of durability. That and you can't really buy weapons, and money is very, very, very scarce in that game. Also, money in that game makes no sense. Well, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but they made it more confusing than it had to be. There's silver and there's gold. And by the way, oh yeah, microtransactions. Hope you like those. Echo's full of them. In terms of buying gold. You want more gold? Hey, you want more gold? Upgrade your weapons with my gold. Like, no. Get away. And they technically give you enough to upgrade like one solid good weapon. But it's like, no. Although, here's something I did like what they did. This is the first like route split game I really liked in the Fire Emblem franchise. And that's Alm and Celica's story. And the reason why is you could switch between them on the fly. I love that. I love you could just switch between 2 stories and play through and how they both interconnect. I like Alm's kind of more like militarization route. You're leading a giant army. Yeah. And Celica's more of like a small band of people. Kind of like, like a hero's quest is more of Celica. And I love that. They're going on a quest to save the goddess, and Alm's going on a quest to take back the land of Sophia and unite the land. I love that so much. It is such a good story. Like Fire Emblem Echoes, I think has like one of the strongest stories of the 3DS era of Fire Emblem. Like it just in total has like the best Fire Emblem story, I think. I think it beats Awakening even for how good it is. And don't even get me started on the music of that game. Oh my god, the music is so good. Twilight of the Gods I listen to on a weekly basis. That is how good that song is. It blows Fates out of the water for just how fantastic that game is. I would play Fire Emblem Echoes 100 times over, and I still enjoy going back and playing it. My only problem with that game, the only problem, and this is it, is the time problem. The ability to go back in time. I'm gonna be honest. It's not handled very well in that game. Nah. I mean, look, everything else is great. I just think if you just remove that one thing, it'd be a perfect Fire Emblem game. It just... My only other con, I think, with that game is it's heavily grindy. And what I mean by that is you have to go through dungeons and fight monsters to grind up XP to fight other dudes. And as much as I love Fire Emblem, I'm not a fan of grinding. Yeah, I'm just not. I'm not a grindy kind of guy. I'm just not. Grinding is to be honest. I'm on that. So I think Echoes is one of, if you want to play a Fire Emblem 3DS game, I would play Awakening and I'd play Echoes, and I just avoid Fates. Fates just dropped the ball. I'm just gonna be honest. Fates dropped the ball. Awakening is a really good entry for the Fire Emblem series. Echoes is a great game to play after it. And now we move on to the next one. Fire Emblem Warriors. Oh, you thought I was going to say Three Houses, didn't you? No, we'll get to that in a minute. Also, hello, Bambi. Sorry, I just noticed your comment. Fire Emblem Warriors. I'm not going to stick too much on it because it's not a traditional Fire Emblem game, but we're going to talk about it a little bit. Fire Emblem Warriors, I feel like, is a really good game. I've played a lot of the Warriors games and a lot of the Samurai Warriors games, Dynasty and Samurai. I even played one of the Orochi games, so like I'm experienced with it. I've played the Hyrule Warrior games as well. I enjoy Warriors games in like small bursts, so I'll play like a little bit. I'll play like a couple levels, then I'll leave, then play a couple levels, then I'll leave, and I'll drop it for like a week at a time. My main problem with the Warriors games is how like grindy they are and how long it takes to complete a main story. And it's not like it's a bad game. It's just again, I'm not a fan of grinding, and Warriors games have a lot of grinding. So I'm not a huge fan of that. I just want to complete the story and be done. That's also why I like Fire Emblem games. You could just complete the main story and be done. You know, it's a central story kind of thing, except for the route split, which we'll talk about later. Fire Emblem Warriors was a really fun game. I really liked how they handled leveled ups. I like how they brought back a bunch of old characters from a bunch of different games. They brought Marth back, and Marth's pretty cool. They brought, Lucina and the Fates characters and all the Awakening characters, and it's a really fun game. It's just not for me, and I'm perfectly okay with that. That it's just not made for me, you know. And now, without further ado, what you've all been waiting for, Fire Emblem Three Houses. Yay, we finally get to this topic. Fire Emblem Three Houses is like a 50-50 split for me. Because on one hand, I really love this game. On the other hand, I really hate this game. And okay, let me explain. Fire Emblem Three Houses is a very different game. It's going to take longer for me to explain. Fire Emblem Three Houses was a game I was really excited for, and I waited for release. And actually was the first Fire Emblem game that I pre-ordered. Which is kind of nuts for me. I pre-ordered Three Houses. Which doesn't sound nuts for you, but I traditionally don't do that because games tend to be a lot buggier at launch. But I really wanted to play this game. So I put it in and I started playing, right? And the first route I picked was Dimitri's route. We'll get to Engage in a minute. I don't know much about the game because I've kind of avoided it, but we'll talk about it, right? But Fire Emblem Three Houses, I picked Dimitri. And his route, it's really, really good. It's really good. And I was mad that it was so good. Like, I can't even lie. Dimitri's route, really good story. If the game was just Dimitri's route, I would be happy. Like, I would just be happy and I would accept that, right? Like, oh my god, Dimitri's route, this is amazing. And then I'd be happy. But we have two other routes. So I'm going to start with Dimitri's route and then we'll move on to the other routes with pros and cons. Dimitri's route, pros. You really build a very close connection with those units. And you feel really personal to them and you feel really close. And it feels like a family. Like them all working together feels like a family. And they're all doing their best. And I really love that in Fire Emblem Three Houses. Cons. It is very self-focused story. The other two stories go to all the way different areas. This one feels very small compared to all the other two. And I don't know why that is. Well, I know why it is. It's because Dimitri's route doesn't touch on any of the big story beats. It touches on Dimitri versus Edelgard, and that's a really cool story, seeing the Empire versus the Kingdom. But my main problem with it is it doesn't touch any of the secret stuff. It avoids all of like the background. It avoids Rhea. It's like its own centered story, and it's really good for playing like if you just want to play a smaller, self-contained story. But the problem with that is that it doesn't prep you for any other routes, and I feel like a lot of people are going to play Dimitri's route first. So that's my opinion. Is like Dimitri's really good It's just I wish they would have like at least talked about Shambhala or would have talked about the Agarthans a little bit or delved into the Church of Saros a little bit more. But it was more focused on Dimitri and a little tight family, which is a good story. I just wish it would have expanded a bit more and talked about other things that it didn't talk about. Next story to focus on, Edelgard. And this is different because Edelgard has two splits in it. Yep, Edelgard splits into two more. Okay. So first you got, if working with Edelgard, like you're in the first half, you know, same story, just with different characters. The second half, during the route split, you could pick to work with the Church of Saros, or you can choose to go with Edelgard. For my first route playing through it, I went with Edelgard. And you had this cool little camp area when you do that, but you only see it once in the whole game. And it made me realize that I really wish I would have seen other camps or areas in Three Houses. Like, you got, like, the church, and that's a really cool place to be. Like, you know, but I really wish you would have been able to have, like, different hub areas. I feel like that would have really added to that game a lot more if you had a lot more hub areas to explore in and make you feel like you were actually in those places. I understand that would be a lot of work. I'm just saying, personally, that's what I would have wished for. If they had a little bit, like, decrease the size of that area and add more to, like, other areas. I feel like that would have added more to the game, personally. That, and I don't think it would have lagged a lot less, which we'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, so first route I went with was Edelgard's route, and it kind of has the same problem as Dimitri's route, but it does have one bonus in the fact that it does focus on those who slither. However, you don't get much into it, and I feel like that's a real big shame. Because the whole reason Edelgard is doing that is to get at those who slither and to unify Fodlan against them. So, it really sucks that they really don't talk about it. And she apparently works with them. So it would have been nice to see that, like, asked about or conflicted against or brought to, like, the forefront. But it just wasn't, and I feel really nasty. Especially after your, spoiler alert, after your dad basically gets murdered by them, you'd think that you'd be vengeful and would ask Edelgard, hey, let's go get these guys. But she helped them kill your dad, so I just don't see reason to side with her. That and her motives are just, they're very bad. They're very bad motives. They're based on a lot of preconceptions and kind of racist. And it's like, I struggle to support you, Edelgard. You're very hard to support. Like, I don't know what to do. And apparently, you know, she killed her mom, so that's also not great. It's hard to support her and, like, her route when you know she's in the wrong. And, like, there's no, like, I mean, yes, you have Unify Fodlan, but there's another person doing it that's better than her. And that's the problem. Like, Fire Emblem Three Houses and with Edelgard is that she just doesn't get expanded on, like, at all. And I feel like if they would have delved into her motives or, like, explained them better, I'd be able to get more behind it. But they just seem so baseline and dumb. Like, if she can, like, give me a better reason, I'd be more inclined to play her route. Now we have a second route, and that is the Snow route, or in this case, the Church of Saros, which you can team up against Edelgard in Edelgard's own route. See, I'm pretty sure even the game developers knew how dumb it was. I'm gonna say this. It's too short. It's way too short. And it makes me mad of how short it is. It's so small, and they just kill off characters for no reason, and I don't know why. I don't know why they kill off the character. You don't even get a chance to get Dimitri in there. And yeah, like, Dedu pops up a little bit after. But by the time Dedu pops up, you're just kind of like, well, Dimitri's dead, so it kind of makes me feel awful. Because, like, it just feels like when you pick that route, everybody's against you. And it just kind of feels so uncanon. Have you ever played a route or a thing in a game that you know for a fact is not canon and you know never will be canon? Just because of how, like, small and how, like, inconsequential it is. I feel like you do basically nothing in that route except make yourself stronger. Like, you don't benefit to the cause. I mean, yeah, you stop the Empire, but at that point, it's like, what do you do? I mean, you also go here's one big bonus, though. you go to Shambhala. I would not even talk about this route if it wasn't for that one fact. You go to Shambhala. And if you want to know why that's important, the people in Shambhala are the ones causing the wars, causing the pain. They're like the big villains of the story. And in that route, you finally get to go down there and you get nuked. Yeah, you heard me right. You literally get nuked. Like, that's not a joke. That's not a pretense. I mean, there's a literal nuke that falls out of the sky and nukes you. Not a joke. A medieval game with a nuke. An actual nuke. I want you guys to understand what I'm saying. The medieval fantasy game, nuke. Medieval fantasy, a nuke. What? 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 Huh? What is that? What happened? I understand they're technically advanced, but why did they nuke themselves? Why send a nuke into your own home? Like, that's kind of pointless. That seems so dumb to me. I don't know why that's there. Just casual. And there's reasons, like, there's lore to indicate about this before. Like, they explain in this one area that the goddess destroyed this whole land, but in actuality, it was the nuke. Okay, then. Nukes. Why not? Nukes in our medieval fantasy game. Sure. Why not? We can't master guns. We don't have any guns. But we can have some nukes. It's the most American Fire Emblem game ever. Okay. Okay. Sorry, it just makes me laugh. Just the thought of a medieval fantasy game having nukes. Just, and the fact that it's actually real and I could talk about it is just, it's kind of funny. All right, on to the next route. Sorry, I just got stuck on that tidbit for a second. On the next route, we have Claude's route, my personal favorite. Why? His whole shtick is finding out the truth. He doesn't care if you're bad or good. He just wants the truth, and I admire that so much. So his route on the second half, well, and even in the first half, really, there's some changes to it. Which, if you guys don't know, in every route, the first half is exactly the same. There's no point covering it. Well, in the third route, with Claude's route, it's actually a little different, and that's because he's actually exploring and looking into the church and questioning things, and looking into Sedith and Flayn and Rhea, the top 3 people in the church. He's actually looking into it and trying to learn. And I find that really admirable for a character. So I'm already like on his side, right? I'm already like, ooh, I know who I'm rooting for, right? So when it comes to the route split, it's really interesting being able to see him again. Also, the one thing about the third route is you're like outside of it. Like in our other 2 routes, you're like inside the thing. It's very, you're all working together. That's going a bit too far for a medieval fantasy game. Bringing in on an actual nuke. That's what I'm saying. A nuke in a medieval fantasy game. Anyway. But yeah, the third route. It's actually Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Oh, cool. I didn't know that. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day, guys. Anyway. So the third route with Claude, he's actually looking into stuff. And you meet up with him, it feels very like impersonal, but also personal. Like personally, relationship wise, but you have no like jurisdiction on the politics. And that's like the first 2 routes with Dimitri and Edelgard. They both like became super obsessed with you to the point of like slaughtering whole villages for you. They became like yandere-ish. I don't know why that is. But Claude's like the first one that feels like a real person. He's like, I'm really happy to see you again. You can help me. But like, I'm not drooling to slaughter a whole village in your name. You know what I'm saying, guys? Like, he's like the first character that's not like, I need to slaughter a whole village just to get you to notice me. Like, that's not Claude versus the other 2, right? So it's like, Claude's normal. He's not a psycho. Yeah. Claude's like the first non-psycho character in that game, and I don't know why that is. Because Ray is psychotic. Seth is like tamer. He's a more logical kind of psychotic. Flame's just basically a child. I can't really complain about her. What do you say about a kid who's actually hundreds of years old? I don't know. I don't know. What do you say about a child who's actually hundreds, if not thousands of years old? What do you say to that? Um, but yeah, like that's the first thing. Hey, Rose. But that's like the first thing I noticed about Claude. He's very like down to earth, logical, doesn't get super attached very easily, and I enjoyed that about him. And also all the like house members. I haven't really talked about them much, but I think Claude's house members I enjoyed them the most because they bicker along each other, but they still work together, and they feel like actual complete people. Like Dimitri's out, for example, his kind of class route. Everyone kind of feels like personally and very like, oh, they were my fiance or they're my best friend. Versus the middle route where it's like with Edelgard, everyone's at each other's throats, and then you have Claude's route, the Golden Deer, and everyone there is kind of like, yeah, we're working together. We're not sure if this is gonna work out, but we're trying. And they're not like best friends, but they all get along like reasonable people would during a war. I want to make this like absolutely clear. Their alliances are not like struck right there. They're very like wavy. They're very on the board. Like, and they value their friendships, but they also know that they need to support their home and family above all else. And I love that. I love seeing characters be conflicted about what they're doing and like actually feel like morally gray. Because what do you do in that situation? Do you run home to defend against the Empire? Or do you march onward towards like the Empire's capital, knowing you could die, but you can also end the war right there? I mean, what do you do, right? And I love seeing these characters have those moments where they're like they are questioning their loyalty because they care about their family more than they care about their friends. And I love seeing that like and even with like the most innocent of characters in their party, you still see that. And it's amazing to witness. It is one of my favorite things. And out of everything in that game, this is my favorite trait to notice. That being said, that being said, the final thing I gotta talk about with Claude is he also goes to Shambhala, but it's so much better than the Saris route, which is also why I say that route's pretty much 100% non-canon. Because Claude's route, you visit Shambhala, you strike down the main dude, and you think it's over, because that's where the game ends. Every single route, that's where the game ends, right? You end with beating the final dude, the credits roll. Not quite. The credits don't roll yet. We get the best song ever. Shattering Star with Hades. No, not Hades. Nemesis himself comes out of the freaking grave and has a whole freaking army for you. It's like one final ultimate test of your skills. Oh my god, this song is legendary. And at the end of the game, you see all these characters working together, truly grown as a bunch. And they're all fighting for their dreams. There's only one problem with it. Nemesis doesn't need to be there. Nemesis died. He got stabbed through the chest 100 times. Like 100 years before. I don't know why he's there. They kind of felt like they just shoved him in there for the sake of him being there. It's really cool. I will not lie. It's really cool. I really love it. It's just, it's not right. I love the gameplay. It's so cool. The song is so amazing. It feels so awesome. But it's an asshole. I really want to like it. I really do. Because it's so good. But the sad thing about it is it it they just put it in there last second and no conclusion, no like, oh, this might happen. Just here he is. Oh yeah, by the way, he conquered half your country. What? Yeah, a random dude popped out of the grave with a random army and conquered half your country because YOLO. See that's why this game, it's a lot better than Fates. Okay, Nemesis is the dude at the very beginning when you see Rhea stabbing. Also, Nemesis is the Liberation King, and he's basically responsible for killing most of the gods. He's a god killer. That's what he does. That's his whole job. And in the game, you are a god, so you're like, I don't want to get murdered by this guy. And Claude's like, I don't want him to kill you. You're my friend, right? So he slays him. And oh, by the way, Claude's like the first character that's not yandere, so he's not like lovey-dovey, which I appreciate. Unless you choose to marry him. Which, by the way, only happens at the very end of the game. And you know what the best part is? No incest marriage. Yes. Hallelujah. You know, they've made great strides. I will say this. The Fire Emblem Three Houses is a much better game than Fates and Awakening. I feel like it can test with Echoes for like number one game. In terms of like good Fire Emblem games, Three Houses and Echoes are up there for me in terms of really good games. Awakening's like a third place game where it's a really good like introductory game, but Echoes and Fire Emblem Three Houses just do it so much better. Now, the next game we gotta talk about is Three Hopes. And it's gonna be pretty short because it's the same game, but with a what if scenario. And as much as I enjoy that game, it gets some things wrong that I really don't like, and I feel like their first game did better. Fire Emblem Three Hopes is a Warriors game, and I really want to like it, but its focus on strategy over just slaying thousands of enemies is it's not what a Warriors game is about. And I feel like no matter how hard I leveled up in that game or how good I got, I was always a step behind the enemy. And I always got trounced. Even on the easier difficulties, I just feel like I was severely underleveled no matter what I did. Like I was severely underpowered, underleveled, and I don't know what to do. That game is only one of the only Fire Emblem games I did not beat to completion. Because I didn't play Edelgard's route, because I'm like, why would I want to do that after Fire Emblem Three Houses? Maybe I'll go back and play her route. Maybe it'll make the game better. I just feel like the game is missing things it really needs. Another thing I didn't like was the class system. I really hate how they got rid of proficiencies in that game. And in general, the game just feels unpolished. And I don't know why it feels that way. But the game feels so unpolished, and I don't know why. It feels like it was rushed out the door. It's not buggy, it just feels incomplete. Like it's missing things it needs. And I don't know what to do to fix that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what they could do, honestly. I feel like if they would have done the original Warrior original Warrior game they did for this, but update the graphics and do it with that theming and those characters, it would have been better. But they didn't. They focused more on strategy gameplay and more on moving your units around the map rather than hacking and slashing through 1,000 enemies, which is why I play a Warriors game, is to kill hundreds of enemies and officers. And they don't have that in this game all that much. It focuses on strategy. Like axe beats this, spear beats this, sword beats this. And the triangle, the triangle system works in Fire Emblem, but it doesn't work in a Warriors game that well. Like at all. And it really made it hard to play. I played through Dimitri's route, and while they did expand more, they did what I wanted in the first one. Again, it feels very slapped together. That's my main problem with this Warriors game. It feels so slapped together, like nothing meshes well, and I don't know what happened. It's not even like that it's super bad. It feels like none of the routes properly connect to one another, and even when they briefly do, it just feels like the whole game is a let's answer some questions and then leave kind of game. It doesn't feel like a game you need to play. It's more of a game that someone makes a story video on and explains it kind of game. And that's sad because I really wanted to like this one. I really liked Three Houses. It's just Three Hopes. Just, I don't even want to say it dropped the ball. It just wasn't right. I don't know how to explain it. Like, it just didn't feel right the whole time I was playing it. It didn't feel like a war. It felt like just completing objective over objective. That's all it kind of was. And it was really sad because Fire Emblem deserves to be loved and connected with because it's a really good franchise. It's just that Warriors game just really was not very good. And it's sad because I really like Warriors games and I really like Fire Emblem, and you think that would be a smash dunk. It just wasn't. And this game I was really excited for. It looks so cool. Shez is a really cool character. Arvel is a really cool character. Byleth got shafted really hard. That's another thing about this game. Byleth basically gets written into as a demon and an evil person. The main protagonist of the last game that you play as. And it's like, what happened? What happened to Byleth's empathy? What happened to that? Why is she suddenly trying to murder everybody? What happened? Why did she suddenly turn into a demon? What happened? You know what I'm talking about? Also, a lot of characters don't act how they did in Three Houses, like, at all. Example, Dimitri is a completely different character. Rhea, again, different character. The only character, like, there's, like, the main characters don't act like themselves. However, I will give it this. Edelgard got dramatically improved in this game. Majorly improved. It's not like, oh, well, here's the thing, Victoria. It wasn't that I couldn't beat the enemies on the easiest difficulty. It's that since the game focused on strategy, I couldn't just obliterate them. And that's why I play Warriors games, to obliterate enemies. One sword slash, and boom, all the enemies go flying. That doesn't happen in that game, and it's sad because I really want to like it. Like, you don't obliterate them. Yeah, you can beat them easily, but it's just one of those cases where you always feel underleveled, and you don't feel like you're making any real progress in that game, and it just kind of blows. But yeah, Edelgard's route, just, she's so much better of a character. Also, she's not racist anymore. Hallelujah. Reno, Edelgard's not racist. So we'll take that, right? We'll take it. However, with her character, there is one more problem. They didn't really expand why she's doing what she's doing. They just kind of explain what she's doing. And while that's helpful, and we finally understand that she's conquering this for the purposes of, she's conquering the land for the purposes of strengthening the whole unity. Again, Claude's doing it better. Like, there's one thing to conquer through bloodshed, but Claude's doing it so much better and succeeding where you're failing. Like, I really want to like you, Edelgard. You're so powerful. You're cool. I like your personality. But just, your motives are so dumb. They're so dumb. It's like Broly, right? He's really cool. He's powerful. But he's so dumb for just being mad at Kakarot because he cried as a baby. It's like that, right? Fire Emblem Three Hopes is a step in a right direction in terms of story, but like 3 steps back in terms of gameplay and how fun it is. The game is not fun to play, but the story is so good you want to keep playing it, if that makes sense. The main problem with that, if the gameplay is not fun, but the story is, you'll just look up a video on YouTube and go, oh, that's a good story, versus playing it over and over because you like the gameplay. So I feel like this game just, again, didn't drop the ball, but just wasn't as good as it needed to be. And I feel like if they would have gave it like 1 more year of development, it could have been a lot more polished up, and they could have fixed out a couple of those kinks in the gameplay. But as it stands right now, you know, Nintendo very rarely updates their games and fixes problems. I mean, look at Pokemon. So, what do you do? What do you do, right? It's a sad fact game. And now, the final game on the list that we've worked to this entire video. The reason I made this video in the first place, or live stream. Fire Emblem Engage. Now, I want this to be perfectly clear right off the gate. I haven't played the game yet because it's not out yet. Still 4 days till it comes out, and I'll make a review video, probably, when it comes out, or I'll just get on a live stream and talk about it. Fire Emblem Engage looks to be a really fun game. I'm sad they got rid of the route split thing, but they added a couple things I did like. They brought maps back so you could travel along the map. Also, hey Violet. So that looks kind of exciting and fun. I really love how the animations look and how the game looks. In my opinion, Fire Emblem Engage looks so much better than Fire Emblem Three Hopes and Houses. And I think that's because they got rid of the muted color palette and added a lot more vibrant and much brighter colors into the game. Also, you're playing as a dragon in this game. Can we just talk about that? You're playing as the dude who normally is the enemy of every game, which I think is really cool. I think it's really cool that in this game, for instance, every single Fire Emblem game, the final boss is a dragon. And in this game, you're the dragon. But you're helping humans fight off evil dragons. That just sounds cool. It's a new concept I like. Also, what it looks like they've done, and I can't confirm this, but I'm just going to talk about it. What it looks like they've done is get rid of marriage. And I don't know if that's going to be a good or a bad thing. I don't know if they do it like Three Houses style, where it's like you marry at the very end of the game, like right before the last map of the game, or if it's like just support conversations to get to A and that's it. Because it's kind of a shame, because I'd love to have like my main character get with like the other, like, oh, here's the main lord of the game. Ta-da! That's what I usually do. Why? Because I'm a simp. That's why. Anyway, what I'm trying to say though is that this game looks really good, and I'm praying, absolutely praying, that there's no bugs, because I love the Fire Emblem franchise. I've fallen in love with it since Awakening. And while that doesn't seem like much, that's 5 games. Fire Emblem Awakening, Fire Emblem Fates, Fire Emblem Echoes, Fire Emblem Warriors, Fire Emblem Three Houses, Fire Emblem Three Hopes. Oh, 6 games. And I'm about to play my 7th. I've played from the very first 3DS game to here. So I am praying that this game is good. I don't know what you guys think about it. I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think about Engage based off the trailers. Because the trailers make this game look so good. But Cyberpunk looked really good. And I got burned really bad by Cyberpunk. Really bad. And Arcade Paradise 2, weirdly, which is probably a game you've never heard about, but it's a game I really like. So I really, really want this next Fire Emblem game to be good. Because if it isn't, I might cry. I might cry, man. I've been excited for this game for a minute. And I feel like this game has the potential to be the best Fire Emblem. The best. As in, nothing can top it. I don't know what you guys think. I would love to hear what you guys think. Just like let me know what you guys think of Fire Emblem Engage based off what you've seen so far. Because I'm thinking this game's going to be really good if it's not buggy. Pray we don't get another Pokemon Violet and Scarlet. Because, oh my god, what did you do? You know, it's kind of like that with Fire Emblem, not with Pokemon right now. It's the, what did you do? Because of how broken it is. Don't get me wrong, like Pokemon Violet, bit buggy. Not gonna lie, bit buggy. And I really hope that Fire Emblem doesn't have those bugs, because it's a strategy game. And when you have a strategy game, you need things to run smoothly. Otherwise, the whole game is crap. if you have a bug that could be broken so easily, the game starts to break down really fast. And you don't want that. So, let's hope that's not buggy. I'm really hoping it's not buggy. You know? Also, hey Moon, sorry I didn't say anything earlier. I just saw it. But yeah, I think that's it for Fire Emblem games I've actually played. I know there's a Fire Emblem anime I think I heard somewhere being made or something like that. Or was that just my friend talking out of his butt? I don't know. I'd have to actually look it up. But yeah, that is everything I've played to now. There we go. My throat. Um, I guess one topic I can talk about is like the music of Fire Emblem. Fire Emblem Awakening's music is the only soundtrack I don't really care for. A good, great game, just music's kind of eh. Fates had really good music, but everything else was kind of crap about it. I mean, the gameplay was pretty good though. Fire Emblem Echoes had fantastic music. Again, Twilight of the Gods, I listen to it weekly. Fire Emblem Warriors didn't really feel connected in the music department. Not a bad game. Again, just didn't really feel connected. Fire Emblem Three Houses has really, 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 really good music. Tempest of Seasons, Chasing Daybreak, Wrath Strike, Apex of the Gods, Shattering Star. So many good songs in that game. And they're all incredible. They're just out of this world, drop dead gorgeous songs. That being said, from what I've heard from Engage's songs so far, I'm sorry, Engage. Your music's not that good. I'm sorry. Your OST got leaked, and I couldn't help myself. I'm not really a fan of your music. I'm sure other people are gonna like it. It's just, and maybe I don't think I've heard all the music, so maybe I'll actually really like tracks, and maybe with context for the scenes, I'll really enjoy the songs. It's just, I feel like Engage's soundtrack is more like orchestral, and it's like, I'm not much a fan of an orchestral guy. I don't know. Maybe the tracks will surprise me. I mean, Three Houses had freaking dubstep. How many games do you know? How many like medieval fantasy games have dubstep in them? Tell me, audience. Yeah, like I feel like Nintendo always like lands the music very well in like every game they produce. Well, not produce. This is them publishing, but still. Pokemon usually has really good music. Fire Emblem, really good music. Mario, really good music. Kirby, really good music. Samus, okay, the latest game, Metroid Dread, not very good, but in terms of music, but every other Metroid game, really good music. I'm gonna be honest, I didn't really enjoy Dread's themes. None of them really stood out. Just Engage's like music is very, very iffy for me. I'm not really a music. I don't really like it so far. But again, maybe I just need context for the scenes. Example: Fire Emblem Awakening. I don't like the soundtracks on their own, but like I could play the game, and if I hear like "Don't Speak Her Name" playing like during that chapter, I tear up a little bit. I start crying a little bit, man. This with the context of the scene, it really does make me sad. Because Crom's sister just basically got murdered right in front of his eyes, and he's crying, and I start crying because you drew a connection with her, right? And like all the soldiers are giving up fighting because her sacrifice like really showed them the good in people. So like the enemy soldiers start dropping their weapons, and some continue to fight, but they don't want to fight you, but you have to lay them down anyway to escape. It's like a really sad scene. Like stuff like that, can really get to me. With context to the scene, music tracks that are meh for me can go from this doesn't really affect me to I'm bawling my eyes out. So maybe that'll be the case with Engage, right? If I hear like a happy track and I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing with the happy track in the background, I'll go, oh my god, and now I like this track because it has context, right? Like Don't Speak Her Name, with its context, I cry and tear up. Maybe Engage's soundtrack will be the same thing, right? That's all I'm trying to say. I, the gameplay of Engage, though, the animations look fantastic. However, they're bringing back the weapon triangle, and I'm kind of iffy on that fact. I feel like the weapon triangle is kind of dumb. Because especially because like you have other like weapon types that just completely like go around it, and so you kind of limit yourself in terms of weapons you can use. That and the ring system looks very overpowered. And like don't get me wrong, I like being overpowered in Fire Emblem games, but if you're overpowered all the time, it's not fun. I like growing to be overpowered. I like going from nothing and then being a god near the end of the game. That's what makes Fire Emblem fun. You start at nothing and you grow into everything. And like that's like the main thing I really like about Fire Emblem games is you start off at level 1, then by the end of the game you're like level 100 and you got the best weapons and you're just slaying enemies in one turn. And it's fun and they can't hit you. But at the very beginning of the game you're weak and frail and you have to be really smart with your movements. And that's what's fun about Fire Emblem is going from a weak, meager units to godlike units. That's what makes Fire Emblem a really fun game. And with the inclusion of what they're doing with the rings, it feels like you're going to be overpowered from the get-go. And it's like I don't want that. I mean, I enjoy being overpowered, but I want to earn that overpowered. I don't just want to have it. I want to earn it. You know what I mean? It's like it's like this. It's imagine building a Lego set. It's fun to have the full Lego set already built for you. But wouldn't you rather build it yourself? I guess that's kind of what I'm getting, right? It's like building a Lego house. You could just have someone else build you a Lego house, or you could do it yourself and spend the time and watch your progress slowly build up into that house. And that's what's fun about Fire Emblem is you go from a unit that's like it's can get one hit KO'd to a unit that can't get touched and is tanky. I like to use Naui as my example from Fire Emblem Awakening. When you first get her, she's super weak. By the end of the game, though, she's a god killer. Same thing with Donald, the villager. He goes from can't even take one hit to I can take all the hits. And that's the difference in these characters that I really like. Is that I feel like Fire Emblem Engage is making you too overpowered from the start. Plus, with the time system, which is where I'm finally bringing it back, in Three Houses, you didn't get all your divine pulses at once, so you theoretically can only go back 1 or 2 turns, right? In 2 times. In this game, there's no limit. You get the max from the get-go and can go all the way back. That seems obscenely overpowered. That means you don't even have to strategize. You can just throw your units in the fray and just see what happens with no consequence. That's not how Fire Emblem... It's a strategy game. You're supposed to strategize. If you take away that element of it, what are you left with? You know, what are you left with in that game? If I don't think there's anything wrong with the time system. I just think that it needs to be like... They need to, like, scale it back a little bit. You know what I'm talking about? Like, don't give you a bunch of time rewind abilities. Maybe lower it down to like 1 or 2 so you can save your character 1 or 2 times, not 10 times. It's ridiculous. Because the maps don't even last that long in most of the Fire Emblem games, and the 3DS ones anyway. Maps are very small. They take you like 20 minutes, and if you can reset 10 times, that's a reset every 2 minutes. What? I need you guys to understand how absurdly broken the time system is and how broken it was in Three Houses, but you had to earn the brokenness. You had to earn your way to more broken. Fire Emblem Engage doesn't look like you have to earn the broken. Looks like you just get the broken right off the bat. With the rings, and the turning back the time, and all the characters being buffed. It's like, I want a challenge. That's why I play Fire Emblem games. That's why I play on Maddening and Hard Mode and Lunatic Mode. Is I want a challenge after I play on Normal Mode. So I really want to emphasize this. I feel like Engage might struggle in the balance department. Like heavily might struggle. And I'm really worried for that. Again, have not played the game. It doesn't come out for 4 more days. I'm naming it as this. Doesn't come out for 4 more days. But I really want this game to not be busted and broken. Hey, Norsky. And I really want to enjoy this game. And I'm really excited for it. I just want to feel like a Fire Emblem game. I mean, look. I may have given the Warrior game a lot of crap. But at least it played like a Warriors game. With the added strategy that kind of made it go down a little bit. But it still played like a Warriors game. This does not look like a Fire Emblem game. Sure, it has the units and the squares and you move around, but with how overpowered you're getting in this game, it feels a little, what's the word? Just pointless. If you're already overpowered from the beginning of the game, then the only reason to play is the story. So then why would you play, right? That's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm really worried about. That being said, they added a break mechanic. And I think that's actually going to help with the balance quite a bit, where they can break your units. And basically what that means is they can stop your turns. And it sounds bad, right? But keep it in this mindset. They've given you the ability to rewind time, take over the entire battlefield with the rings, have units so powerful they can wipe units in one turn at the very beginning of the game. I think the enemy units being able to stop you and keep you in place is a perfectly fine mechanic for them. I think that's a perfectly fine thing. And I think them being able to lower your defense and stuff should be fine, because holy crap, are we overpowered at the very start. Like, how many games do you know where your character is godlike at the very beginning of the game and nothing can stop them? Not many. And much less a Fire Emblem game, which are known for having weak units at the very beginning of the game that you have to train and work up to be the best units. Right? So, Fire Emblem is going to be... This next Fire Emblem game, Fire Emblem Engage, is going to be a very interesting game to play. Well, that, and also, I'm really looking forward to the story. I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited to not have a path split story. Because Echoes did path split, and then Fire Emblem did path split, and Fates did a path split. The last 3 Fire Emblem games have all had splitting routes and had a gameplay style of playing from different perspectives. I'm going to be happy just to have a straightforward, narrow game. Also, with a straightforward, narrow game, that gives them the chance to actually write a lot of details in one story, and also have a longer story. I don't know if it will be as long as any of the other games, but it gives them a chance to have more maps, add more detail, gives them a chance to actually perfect the characters more. Now they don't have to write in 100 characters, they can focus on a central group. I think that'll really help them with writing out this story and writing out the characters and making them feel more complete. I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you guys think I'm stretching too far, or do you guys think that I need to relax on this game for a minute because it hasn't even come out yet and I'm being a little too harsh? I don't know. But I paid $60 for this game plus tax. So I really want it to be good, because I really like Fire Emblem games. They're one of my favorite games that I sit down and I'm really excited for. And the other games being the Final Fantasy games, which lately have not been super great. Yeah, there we go. Oh, I can turn this up. No, I can't. Can I turn it down? Yes, I can. Oh, sorry, I just learned something my ring light can do. Sorry about that, guys. I'm still learning stuff. But yeah, essentially that's what I'm talking about, and I just want to say, you think I'm a little bit too harsh? All right. Yeah, I don't know. Again, this is my thing on Fire Emblem Engage is like it's not out yet, so I can't have too complex of an opinion, right? Because I haven't even played it yet. Yeah, if you're paying that much for a game, it better be good. Yeah, because like I'm really excited to play this game, and I want it to be good, and I feel like calling out stuff that like needs to be called out will help like it be developed better. Granted, I don't know how much they can do in 4 days, but maybe the next Fire Emblem game, if they ever see this video, can be like improved upon, right? Um, and that's the reason why I'm harsh. It's not like I enjoy getting negative. It's just I just really want this game to be good, and I'm really skeptical of it, but also really excited for it. It's like that's why I'm saying half and half, right? I'm really excited. I'm really hyped to play this game, but at the same time, I'm really critical of it, and I'm really worried about it because of the direction it's going in. And I just want a good game to play, right? That's ultimately why I'm so that's why I'm talking about it so much is like I'm really worried about this game and I really want it to be good. And that's about it, right? Like and that's the best you can really hope for, right? For a game to be good. Just hope it's fun, it's good, that's it. Anyway, guys, I feel like I've reached the end of this conversation. I also feel like I need to take a breather because I've been talking for like an hour and 10 minutes and my lungs feel like they're about to explode. So, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye, everybody.